everyone, and welcome to today's Public School Board meeting. Yes. As we customarily do, we begin our meetings with an invocation, Pledge of Allegiance. Clarence, you'll do that for us today.
Sure.
We're going to present the national anthem by the students from St. Cloud High School Jazz Singers, and that will be conducted by their teacher, Toni Coles. Our mission statement by Ms. Terry Castillo. Our translation services are brought to us by Multicultural Department led by Dr. Belinda Reyes. And at this time, I ask you all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Clarence, if you can lead us, please.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Both please remain standing, and now we present to you on video our St. Cloud High School Jazz Singers.
Oh, sing, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets reckless, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Mission statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our mission statement is inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Mendoza, and I'm here to provide student services.
Thank you, Dr. Reyes. And again, as is customary, we begin with comments from the board before we start our meeting, our official meeting and agenda. And I will call on, starting from my left, our District 4 representative, Mr. Clarence Stacker.
It looks like we have a lot of people here to speak this evening. I will let them speak.
Thank you, Mr. Stacker. Our District 1 school board member representative is Terry Castillo.
Thank you so much. I will go ahead and mention something that I thought was very positive. So yesterday, Mr. Kroppenbacher and I went to OXA, and we met with an incredible group of students. They were focused on helping us to better understand sexual misconduct at their school and beyond their school. We sat down with them for about an hour and a half. We talked directly to the students. They were exceptionally articulate, very focused. In fact, I will share this with you guys later, but we have a list of items that they wanted us to discuss. And we spent time with them, not only understanding where their issues were, but also we had an open dialogue between ourselves as to what we can do better as a district, as well as informing them of things that we already have put in place. So I thought that was really refreshing to be able to sit down with students and discuss this very important matter. It has been a long time coming. As you know, Mr. Kroppenbacher, you mentioned that we were meeting with them last week or during our last meeting, but I just thought that it was really refreshing, and it also gave me a lot of hope to be able to sit in a room with students who so care about not just themselves, but also the students that are coming before, after them. Students who have really great ideas. Dr. Pace, I know that we've discussed, Mr. Koppenbacher discussed some of them with you and board. I think in the future we will be discussing some of the ideas that they put into place, but I just wanted to give you a little glimpse of the conversation that we had, which I thought was exceptionally productive, and I'm happy to have been part of that. Thank you. Did you want to add? Oh, yeah. I was gonna mention this later during my board comments, but the students are actually drafting the language that's gonna go into place for some of the things that we wanna put into place, specifically the hotline for reporting sexual misconduct, among other things, because we didn't just talk about that. So we're actually partnering with them in basically bringing this issue to light. We're partnering with them in resolving the issue. I think it's important that it is a student-focused conversation, because after all, it is the students that are being affected, and they also want to bring it to other schools. So again, very productive meeting. I'm excited to continue to partner with them, and I'm very hopeful for us to be able to, continue working on this issue.
I'll just say this one. They were incredibly intellectually engaged and open with us and gave us thoughts and ideas that I can tell you we wouldn't have had
Exactly.
without them. And so, I think the final product, like we talked about for the last time, that will bring back to the collaborative effort that we can deploy throughout our system at the upper level. Then we're gonna start looking at how do you communicate at the elementary level.
Right.
And then the middle school, but we wanna attack that senior level right now.
Were you, the students you met with, were they current students or current?
Yeah, they're, I think they were all seniors at OXA.
No, they were 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Oh, so it was a focus group, but yeah, they were all current students. They give this a lot of thought. I mean, I have, like, you can see the work that they put into this document. But I just felt that they were exceptionally open to having the conversation, which I think is the most important part of this.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo.
Thank you.
Well, my comments are just gonna be that I'm very proud of the role you've taken and your leadership, and I can't think of a better board member to lead these young students and these young minds in this effort. And whatever I can do to assist you, I'm ready to do so. Just let me know how I can help.
Thank you, school board member
District
Castillo.
5.
Oh, thank you, Frank. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I jumped the gun there. I appreciate all the work you're doing on this. I know you've been working hard on it, and I appreciate it. Since tonight's my second to last board meeting, and I see him in the back, I am going to recognize him. He tried to sneak in. I did want to recognize and congratulate our next school board member for District 5, Mr. Robert Bass, who's in the back. I know he's going to do a fantastic job. We appreciate you, Robert. I look forward. No, I'm not going to say that. That'd be too harsh. But Robert and I are good friends, and I know he's going to serve the community well. Thank you for being here tonight, and I know the community looks forward to you being here on November 17th and beyond.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. Dr. Pace.
Yes, just briefly, I want to welcome my team back to our board meetings. They have been engaged, but from afar, but certainly doing the work to help me prepare and be here and represent you and bring you good information to help you make your decisions. But also wanted to again welcome Yasin, our student representative from Poinciana High School. We had a great opportunity to get to know him a little bit last meeting, and I look forward to hearing him again tonight share from his perspective the work of the board, what he's hearing from his peers, and representing the P well. I'm sure Mr. Schwartz will not be disappointed.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we welcome our student representative in the last meeting, and I think that you should also have an opportunity to make the initial comments before we begin our actual meeting. So if there's anything that you want to go ahead and share with the community, this is your opportunity.
From the beginning, I mean, regarding like what I said the last time, I still stand by that. Nothing really has like changed my mind on that at all, and I'm just happy with the way things are going, and I just really do hope that they continue to go that way throughout the rest of the school year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. let's get down to business.
Okay.
Alright, so folks, we have a presentation. It's going to be the a declaration of the month of October of the National Principals Month. Ms. Michelle Hanninger, Director of our Middle School Curriculum, will present.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Pace, and members of the leadership team. It is my honor and privilege to express support for the nation's principals by designating the month of October in the year 2020 as National Principals Month. Whereas the School District of Osceola County has declared the month of October 2020 as National Principals Month in coordination with the efforts of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, the American Federation of School Administrators, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, working with the U.S. Congress to designate National Principals Month and resolutions thereof. Whereas the vision, dedication, and determination of a principal provides the mobilizing force behind any school reform effort. Whereas principals are expected to be educational visionaries, instructional leaders, assessment experts, disciplinarians, community builders, public relation experts, budget analysts, facility managers, special programs administrators, and guardians of various legal, contractual, and policy mandates and initiatives, as well as being entrusted with the education and development of young people, our most valuable resource. Whereas principals will play a vital role in successful implementation of the Every Student Succeeds Act, whereas principals set the academic tone for their schools and work collaboratively with teachers to develop and maintain high curriculum standards, develop mission statements, and set performance goals and objectives for schools to achieve educational excellence. Whereas the School District of Osceola County honors such exemplary elementary and middle level public, private, and independent school leaders committed to serving students from pre-kindergarten to grade 8 in their profession. Whereas the School District of Osceola County recognizes outstanding middle level and high school principals who have succeeded in providing high quality learning opportunities for students, as well as their exemplary contributions to the profession. Whereas to honor and recognize the contribution of all school principals and assistant principals at all grade levels to the success of students in Florida, elementary and secondary schools, and to encourage residents of Florida to observe National Principals Month with appropriate ceremonies, activities that promote awareness of school leadership's role in ensuring that every child has access to a high-quality education. Be it resolved, in honor of the service of all elementary, middle level, and high school principals, and to recognize the importance of their school leadership so that every child has access to a high-quality education, and to celebrate school leader accomplishments, the month of October 2020 is hereby designated in Florida to be National Principals Month.
So moved. Second.
There you go. I was gonna call it a tie.
I second too.
A motion to approve by Ms. Terry Castillo and a second by Mr. Ricky Booth.
Actually, I think it was Mr. Thacker.
I think Terry's here.
What, it was a three-way tie?
Oh, it was a three-way tie.
Yes, I'm fine. I'm good with Terry.
All right, I'll give you the next one.
You think I'm gonna vote now?
Anybody has any comments before I take a vote? No? All those in favor to adopt this proclamation, please state aye.
Aye. I would like to say something. I do want to thank all the principals for all they do. They work extremely hard. We talk a lot about teachers, and rightly so, here on the dais and out in the community. A lot of times, I think we don't realize how much not just our principals, but our assistant principals do for our schools and they're leaders in our community. They're kind of CEOs of some of the biggest companies, if you will, within our community. So I do want to say thank you to them, and especially now in COVID times, they have really been asked to step up to the plate. So thank you, and I fully support this as I've already voted for.
So excellent comments, Mr. Booth. Anything further? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
I already did.
I registered 4 votes, passes 4-0.
Vote time.
Our next presentation is a proclamation for School Bus Safety Week. proclamation will be read by Ms. Marie Sheridan and Mrs. Carla Guy. They're both bus drivers.
Good evening, Dr. Pace, board members, leadership staff. I'm actually our recruiter transportation.
You didn't look like those folks.
Yeah, a little different, but I'm very honored to be here tonight to bring awareness to School Bus Safety Week, which is proclaimed to be October 19th through the 23rd, which is next week, obviously. Something very special tonight. We've asked two of our best bus drivers to come up and help us read this proclamation. So in turn, I'd like to introduce Ms. Marie Sheridan and Ms. Carla Geigel, who will read the proclamation for you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to read to you the Osceola County School Board Proclamation. Whereas every year the nation's 480,000 public school buses travel more than 6.2 billion miles to transport over 26 million students. More than half of America's school children tune in from school and school-related activities. And whereas Osceola School District excellent safety record in transporting students to school each day on school buses has been achieved and must be maintained. And whereas school bus transportation is one of the safest form of transportation in the United States, and school buses comprise the country's largest mass transportation fleet. And whereas school buses meet higher construction, equipment, and inspection standards than any other vehicle, and school bus drivers meet higher qualifications, training, and testing standards than any other drivers. And whereas the theme of this year's National School Bus Safety Week is red light means stop.
And whereas motorists must remember to stop when a school bus has stopped and has its stop arm extended and red lights flashing. And whereas activities during School Bus Safety Week and throughout the year provide evidence of Osceola School District's commitment to ensure the health and safety of school children who ride school buses as well as students that walk, bicycle, or ride cars to school. Now therefore be it resolved that the Osceola School Board does hereby proclaim October 19th through the 23rd, 2020 as National School Bus Safety Week. In testimony whereof, the Osceola School Board has hereunto subscribed their names on this 6th day of October 2020. Superintendent Dr. Deborah B. Pace and Chairman Kelvin Soto. Thank you.
Somebody else.
So moved. For a second. I don't know where we are.
I'll do the second.
Okay.
Well, we have a motion to approve this
Discussion.
proclamation by Mr. Castillo, and second by Mr. Ricky Boo. With discussion. Go ahead, sir.
You know, someone tagged me, and thank you guys for doing this, by the way. Somebody tagged me on a post on Facebook about, and this is so important. I've seen some districts, some friends of mine, some districts are using cameras on the side of the school buses to catch folks. I'm not saying that we have the money to spend on that, but I just wanted to bring that out there. There's a lot of innovative ideas coming to the forefront in school bus safety, and thank you guys for coming here and proclaiming this is school bus safety. So we appreciate it. We appreciate all you guys do. We know, we go back just to what I said about the principals. Think about the changes and the difference about transporting our children to and from school. You guys have done an amazing job of making that shift, and thank you very much.
Excellent comments, Mr. Booth. Anything further before we take a vote?
If I may, sir?
Yes.
I typically don't like to comment, but I do want to share with our bus drivers. Mr. Creech shared with me today that absenteeism is down to less than 10% this year. The team has been absolutely phenomenal about reliably and consistently coming to work and getting our kids to and from school safely and on time. And I just couldn't be more grateful to all of you for your service. It is hard. Everybody's working hard right now.
Yes. I know how hard Harvey works.
Thank you for sharing, Superintendent Pace. Anything further? Then we vote. All those in favor of adopting this proclamation, please state aye.
Aye.
I heard almost five, but five is good. Gotta speak louder.
Oh, that's what I heard.
Raise your hand, I ain't here. And our next presentation is an adoption of proclamation for the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This is a video.
Osceola County for the past 37 years. And my name is Lamar. I'm 8 years old and I go to Florida Virtual School.
Whereas between 3.3 million and 10 million children in the United States live in a household where domestic violence is present, and I am Madeline, I'm 11 and I go to St. Cloud Middle.
Whereas domestic violence in childhood is directly connected with learning difficulties, lower IQ scores, deficiencies in visual motor skills involved with attention and memory, insomnia, irritability, distractibility, truancy, and my name is Sean. I go to St. Paul High. I'm 15.
Whereas studies have shown that school-aged children who witness violence display a wide range of problem behaviors, including depression, anxiety, and violence towards peers. And my name's Kira, and I go to St. Cloud Middle. Whereas children exposed to family violence disrupts cognitive and social development and leads to an array of adverse outcomes such as violence, victimization, and hi, I'm Ashlyn and I go to Harmony High School.
Whereas teen dating violence can increase the risk of later substance use, mental health problems, sexual risk behaviors, teen pregnancy, suicide, weight control, and ongoing difficulties with intimate partner relationships. And my name is Shyler, and I'm a Valencia College freshman.
Whereas I'm providing young people with relationship education about healthy relationship and relationship skills, and by changing attitudes that support violence, we recognize that dating violence can be prevented. And my name is Michaela, I'm a freshman and I go to St. Paul High.
Now therefore we, the Osceola County School Board, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and call upon the citizens of our community to join us in working towards the elimination of personal and institutional violence against all persons.
Right, so we have this proclamation.
Motion to approve, second.
Motion by Mr. Thacker to approve, second by Mr. Weissier. Comments from Mr. Booth?
No, I'm good this time.
I got it.
Mr. Thacker,
Mr. Thacker, thank you.
Great job on the video, and as I was sitting here and just kind of reflecting on, this would have been really strange in January. We're kind of also used to Zoom meetings and everything else. Kind of fit natural, but I can't, students again did a fabulous job, and I can't wait until they're all standing at the podium. Right again, so.
Excellent, excellent, Mr. Thacker. Any further comments before we take a vote? None? All vote. All those in favor of adopting this proclamation, please state aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. And that brings us to our public comment section of our school board meeting. We allow for 3 minutes of public comments from folks that have submitted to us this yellow slip so that we may keep track and do this in an orderly fashion. There will be a timer. I'm not very strict with the timer, but quite honestly, when you go past 3 minutes, after that, the probabilities of any attention decreases by an inverse exponential. So it's 1 over x to the e, going down. Therefore, please try to keep it to 3 minutes. We have a lot of folks. I'm going to begin by calling Mr. Richard Rodriguez. If you please approach the podium, state your name for the record and your county of residence, and begin.
Good evening. My name is Richard Rodriguez. I'm at 1314 Moss Creek Lane, Champions Bay, Florida. And first and foremost, thank you for allowing me a minute to 3 minutes to speak. But I wanted to note that I'm the Vice President of Vertical Construction, and I'm coming to speak on behalf of something that just recently occurred. But I wanted to note that I did speak to my only one contact, which is Cheryl Hood, to make sure that I did not violate the no contact period. She told me that it was okay for me to address this because they need to make sure to clarify something that may be happening. I know that the proposal was pulled from the agenda and it's gone for a revote. I'll have to ask Cheryl tomorrow to let me know when was the last time that happened, because it quite frankly just kind of confuses us a little bit. But I did want to note this. We are really happy with working with Osceola County School District. We've done some successful projects, and I think that shows in our commitment to this community, to this district. I'd like to start out by just reading a couple of notes that we've received. Mr. Rodriguez, I would like to express my sincerest appreciation and gratitude in the comprehensive renovation project for Denjon Middle School in Osceola County. I understand that having staff and students remain on the campus while renovations were being conducted is not always the most ideal condition. However, I applaud your team for always putting the school district need first and working around the situation. In consideration of the size and scope of this project, I believe that Pirtle did an extraordinary job. Mr. Soto, you'll recognize those words because they were yours. Next, I have, to whom it may concern. It is with pleasure that I read the letter of recommendation for Pirtle Construction. They built our new school, and the experience was truly remarkable and seamless. They showed great professionalism and kept the school informed every step of the way. They maintained a safe environment and worked with us to assure the students' and staff safety. From the beginning of the project to the end, Pirtle took the time to make sure that we were aware of what was happening during the construction process. We worked together with timing of each phase and assured that there was limited disruption. The letter goes on. That was from Hank Coyle, the principal of Denjon Middle. What I wanted to express was that our commitment to this community doesn't just reside in how we get a job or not get a job. The question is, if there's a confusion or there's a question, please just let us know. I know that maybe the question has come up with the litigation item, whereas in our proposal, we submitted that said that in 52 years of business, we are having one minor issue with a client down south, which is a private developer. In our presentation, we said we have zero litigation. But I want you to understand that on our presentation, we're speaking about our experience with educational facilities. And in our entire history, we have never taken a school district to court. That's not what we do. And if the intent was confusing or something was misleading that was not our intent, we just want to know that from a district side of it, we're not here to have an issue with the district. More and more is when you say about a commitment. I've been a taxpayer here in Osceola County for about 22 years. I raised all my kids in the district. As a matter of fact, I didn't just raise my kids in the district. They all graduated from Gateway High School. My son graduated, he went off to UCF, got his degree in criminal justice, went to serve his country. He came back, actually re-upped for 2 more years because he didn't want to let his guys go overseas without him. He's currently in Pace Law. My daughter graduated from Gateway High School. She moved on to become a medical assistant. My youngest daughter got her master's in psychology and is serving our community. And my youngest son is an IT specialist battling cyber security. I attribute all of that to the success and foundation that they got at Gateway High School. And I would really hate, or really be dismayed, if because of one sentence, after all the work that we've done to show you that we're gonna do a great job, comes down to that. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lair Allen, you're next. Good afternoon, Mr. Allen.
Good evening. Larry Allen, 618 Robin Lane, Kissimmee, Florida, 34759. I'll try to keep it brief. First thing is insurance. A lot of the teachers, education staff, professionals are not happy with the insurance that we're receiving right now. The emergency clinics, I think there are 2 locations, one by the airport, one by Hunters Creek. They're worried about what happens if I get sick, or my children get sick or hurt over the weekend. Where do we go? The choices are pretty limited right now. I did something wrong. They're doctors. They're doctors, especially Advent Health doctors. Some people take quite a while to select a doctor that they feel comfortable with. They're not being able to bring those doctors with them to the new plan. If they do, they go see the same doctor, they have to pay up front, and correct me if I say anything wrong, then they get reimbursed, but I understand that it's at a higher cost. Basically, they feel like there's a bait and switch going on. So we need to do a better job of explaining to them how it is not the case. And I remember Mr. Kruppenbacher tried to explain something in a school board meeting a while back, but maybe it needs to be explained again, because that is the feeling that people have right now. We also understand that insurance costs were pretty high, I think about $7 million in 2015 and $15 million in 2019. And it was explained to us that those are dollars that cannot be used for salary. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like we're really negotiating on salary. If in some aspects, as far as the teacher contract goes, SDLC has moved further away from an agreement than towards it. As far as the education staff professionals go, they've been told since mid-July, there is zero money for you all. So these cost savings that we're getting with insurance, where is it going to? It's not going to salary, so please don't use that as a reason why we're not getting paid. Hybrid teaching, simultaneous teaching, not educationally sound. Kids in the classroom, kids online, cannot split your attention and give the students the attention that they need, the individual attention that they need. Teacher evaluations, if we're truly collaborative, we should at least be talking about how teachers will be evaluated if they're teaching online classes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that has not happened here. And another thing we need to do, I think it's the right thing to grow people from within, take care of Osceola County. These guys right here will come back and teach someday. They might be sitting up there someday. So we grow within. And also, if you grow from within, it is more cost efficient than finding somebody from out or replacing someone. So thank you for your time. Thank you guys for showing up here and part of the process.
The actual health costs are more than 70 years, not 7. And the union, you could really help us. Go to Florida Hospital and ask them to come up with competitive rates that Orlando Health, HCA, and the Moores are coming up with for us. Because that's the money that becomes available.
I've already forgot what you just told me. If you write that
I'll
down.
get with you, buddy.
And I had one question about Tier 1, but I'll talk to you. Tier 1,
Thanks,
Tier 2, I'll
Brian.
talk to you later.
For that clarification, our next speaker is Ms. Tamika Lyles. Good afternoon, Ms. Lyles.
Good afternoon, board. I have been here numerous times to talk to you all about what is going on with our teachers, staff here in Osceola County. And I just want you all to know, since this is the last meeting prior to some of you being here again, well, next to the last, before you all are here. You should know that 2,251 new cases today gives Florida a statewide total of 720,125 infected with COVID-19 and 14,767 deaths. You should know that Florida ranks number 2 in the country of infected children and youth. You should also know that as a teacher, we still have numerous high-risk teachers and staff forced to come to work without proper and efficient notification of positive results. You should also know that I was tested recently for COVID-19. I was negative, thank God, but I was advised by the doctor there that I needed to have a better mask. And I was wearing the mask that was issued to me by this county that I'm wearing today. You should know that our Commander-in-Chief is currently COVID-19 positive and infected numerous people during an outside event. Whereas we're holding face-to-face classes with over 20 students in a closed classroom. You should also know that as of yesterday, commissioners passed a mandate requiring that athletes only wear their masks when on the sidelines. This is a poor example of what we're supposed to be representing when we want our children, staff, and teachers to remain safe. There is no protocol requiring notification of positive results before these children come to school, or staff or teachers come to school. There is no protocol requiring them to have proof of negative test results when they return, and we know that they've left being COVID positive. People are being given an option whether or not to test, knowing that they have been in direct or indirect contact with a student, staff, or person at the school that's working. My ask of you today is simple. Make changes here that you can be proud of. That when you step down off of this bench, that you can truly say that we provided a safe learning environment for our children, our teachers, and staff per our contract. Close the schools until it is safe for us to return. And just want to bring something else to your attention. My president of our union just stated many issues that are going on that can easily be resolved if we go back to distance learning and allow these issues to be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Our next speaker will be Trisha Malazzo Vidal. Just ready?
Thank you. I'm Trisha Malazzo Vidal. I live at 3186 Carpenter Lane. Dr. Pace, school board members, and others. I'm here tonight because I could not just sit around any longer and deal with the fact that I am having to fight every day for just a bit of respect and help as an educator of 17 years in this county. I'm born and bred. You guys paid for me. I'm a core teacher and a school district of Osceola County employee of almost 23 years. After hundreds of unknowns at the start of this year and the fact that this board is unable to fully support its educators and continually stating that it is management rights and refusing to bargain for safe working conditions, staff were anticipating the fact that we could have the ability to get free COVID testing at our work sites, something to help the teachers, finally. Well, we were wrong again. This issue is one of the headaches that your staff members are terrified about as to how to get tested and not to have to sit in a line or be on hold trying to locate a testing place at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, all while teaching virtually, face-to-face, and simultaneously, with some classrooms currently having 40 to 50 students. 3 weeks ago, I was set to go to the room on my campus after dismissal and mandatory after-school duty for all my staff at my school to be tested. Yet I didn't have that equal opportunity as this private agency nurse left after only being at my school for less than half a day. In contacting you, Dr. Pace, about multiple concerns, you stated, and I quote, "unable to get tested due to complications with my schedule." As I stated in an email back sent, it was not my schedule that was a problem. It was the fact that this private agency chose to leave 4 hours prior to their schedule posted and communicated end time. While my administration gave them the okay to leave, this person shouldn't have even asked to leave. Whether slow or busy, they were paid to do a service that was not provided, and myself and other employees were not given a fair and equitable chance as every other staff member in this district to be tested. Some employees have later start times and didn't even get that opportunity. And thank you for offering to allow us to go to another location and be tested, but I would have to use additional time and resources, as well as my vehicle and gas, and time planning for a substitute, all due to it not being my fault. But my main point behind this entire situation, and while I am here going on public record, is that what about those 4 hours at least that this agency owes us as a district? That's a bigger problem. Is this happening at other schools and we are losing more money since this happened on just the first week of this program? There was not another location this nurse had to go to, as she said. So did she take a half day off on my dollars as a tax-paying citizen? And talk about dollars. This was a misuse of our money, as you all sit there and keep saying there is no money for decent and earned raises, yet we have thousands over in extra savings, which is not fully required by FLDOE. I know that many nurses make a whole lot more than me, so instead of saying too bad to your employees, how about helping and holding other vendors accountable? I know that at some larger schools there were numerous issues as well, in the high schools, as so many were looking to be tested and again didn't have opportunities due to too many at one time, and teachers were not able to be tested as we have limited planning time or no planning time, and had to return to their classrooms as students were taken in first. So rather than brag and try to pit your employees against one another by sending emails about how you are helping your faculty with offering a measly $12 a week raise, show us some customer service and show your employees that you are listening and actually care, and not say too bad, maybe next time. And by the way, tell those nurses that when they're on our campuses and they're done using their used gloves and medical PPE equipment for testing at our schools, they need to clean up after themselves. As my school, our employees had to clean up, our teachers cleaned up after them because 2 of our custodians have retired and we're working with only 2 custodians.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ms. Laurie Smith. Good afternoon.
Hello. Hello. I'm here to discuss the issue of teacher evaluations that is currently going into place starting on Friday. I strongly believe the issue regarding evaluations of faculty and support staff needs to be seriously addressed by the district. In the 2019 and 2020 school year, employees fulfilled our requirements of selecting a deliberate practice. We also developed lessons using the Malazzo focused evaluation model. Prior to schools closing in March, your teachers, your professional support staff were observed. We had completed the process. Therefore, we were dictated to the schools that no further evaluations were to be completed during the 4th marking period. That is a decision that is made at the district level. Okay? Many employees had actually already met their highly effective or effective requirement in the 2019-2020 school year leading into 4th marking period. School closings are not a reason to eliminate our evaluations. Not having testing is a reason to eliminate our evaluations. We worked hard. In addition to this outlandish expectation of putting your educators to meet a Malazzo-focused teacher evaluation that is entirely based on classroom instruction with students in the classroom, you're going to hold us to that standard and then determine whether or not we are effective or highly effective? That's not fair. We have lessons that we are just trying to get done. We are in survival mode. We should not be held to a standard of an evaluation system that is designed for traditional classroom instruction. Category 2 and professional service contract employees should be allowed to use their formal or focused evaluation results from 2019-2020, which comprised already 65% of our VAM scores. The other 35% of that calculation can come from the 2020-2021 testing scores. The fact is, the effectiveness of a teacher in the classroom this year is nothing like we have ever encountered before and does not warrant an evaluation that is based on a traditional learning environment.
We have to make these decisions by Friday in regards to our evaluations. That's why I'm asking the school board and our district leadership to please consider this seriously. Furthermore, my focus evaluations were done by Dr. Chandra Evans. On February 13th, 2020, Dr. Evans observed and evaluated 8 elements between standard-based instruction and conditions for learning. She provided specific feedback on my lesson and marked innovating for elements. So I asked the school board and district leadership, why is it acceptable to null and void a completed observation of an educator by the current assistant superintendent of secondary education? Thank you.
Our next speakers are students. I'm going to call you in the order that this was given to me. The first one I'm calling is Olivia Tyndall. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm pleased, and Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, remind, as a student, if you're a current student, you do not state your address for the record.
Correct. I am not. I'm representing our organization.
They
My
all
name
have
is Olivia.
adults in their sheets.
So if you are an adult, then say your address, the name and address for the record.
Olivia Tyndall, 2048 Live Oak Boulevard. As each of you well know by now, 123 days ago, on June 5th, there was an outpouring of stories of student-on-student sexual misconduct experienced while at the Osceola County School of the Arts. In light of your lack of response to the situation, we shortly thereafter formed the Osceola Coalition for Change. On August 17th of this year, each of you received a 12-page letter outlining the research behind our preventative demands. In that email, we also requested a meeting and gave you a week to reply. Additionally, you have received countless emails from our supporters asking that you meet with us and consider our demands. You have decided not to listen, not to respond, and even worse, not to act. That is why we are here today asking, can you hear us now? Can you look us in the eyes knowing that every second you sit idly by, another story of abuse is being formed? Not only are students in school right now fearing for their loved ones' lives amidst a global pandemic, but with each step they fear that their next abuser is lurking around the corner, and that when it inevitably happens, no one will be there to help them. No child should have to grapple with that. You seem to have no sense of the magnitude nor urgency of the matter at hand, and that is unacceptable. Your lawyer covertly meeting with 7 students from one school is not enough. We have been public about protesting today. It cannot be a coincidence that this meeting came about very quickly over the last few days and took place yesterday. It would seem as though, more than anything else, recognition was the desired outcome. And regardless, the issue is much larger than one school. There's a reason we came to you and not to the Osceola County School of the Arts. For 4 months now, we have been devoting our energy to this cause. We have carved a permanent space for it into our everyday because, unlike you, we cannot avert our eyes. If you believe that we are simply going to give up and go away, you could not be more false in your thinking. This is just the beginning. We will be here, holding you accountable, until you choose to take action, and then some. We are watching you, we are judging you, and we will recall this come November. As of 5:06 p.m. today, our petition demanding that you meet with us has 511 signatures. 511 angry voices with their eyes on you and their hands on a ballot. So once again, we will ask, will you meet with us?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miss Andrea Mendoza. Could you please be ready?
Good evening. My name is Andrea Mendoza, and I have decided to speak individually, both as an OXA alumni and a survivor. At the beginning of June, when all the survivors broke their silence on Twitter and decided to share their stories, I was sucked back into memories of my own sexual abuse by someone who, as of now, has more than 40 allegations against him. This person also graduated from my high school and was loved by the faculty. He was a golden boy, as a lot of people referred to him. Among the commotion, I also made a threat asking the school administration to address the issue. 3 months later, in a coalition with a letter of demands, I am standing here just as disappointed and irate as I was back when I was forced to relieve my trauma. What breaks me the most now is not the fact that I fell victim to one of the most notable predators, but that my high school's faculty and administrative team continuously enabled his behavior for years and actively prevented people from reporting him, as I came to find out after numerous accusations came against him. Unlike what Laurie Smith claimed in what I can only call a perfect example of a tone-deaf response, by the way, my name is Andrea, his life remains untouched, and he has not faced any consequences as of now. I want to make something clear. I am tired, just as I was tired back in June. Tired of the constant neglect that you have clearly presented, and tired of the fact that as we speak, there are students being abused just like I was 2 years ago. Just because they're not on campus doesn't mean that phones doesn't exist and social media is not a threat to them. I raised my voice when I shared my anger through Twitter. I raised my voice when I decided to take action and join the coalition. And I raised my voice when I sent you an email along with fellow classmates and alumni, and you clearly heard us. You chose to ignore us too. I am now standing in front of you hoping that you will finally recognize that you are part of a system that betrayed and failed me, along with hundreds of students. I can't sit back and wait for you to do something because 3 months have passed and this issue is still not resolved. Estoy parada aquí esperando que finalmente reconozcan que son parte de un sistema que nos traicionó y nos falló, así como cientos de estudiantes. No me puedo sentar y esperar que ustedes hagan algo, porque han pasado 3 meses y este problema todavía no se ha resuelto. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Ashley Quintero.
Hi, my name is Ashley Quintero. I'm 849 Blonde for the record. I'm also here to talk about the issue of sexual abuse in schools. 4 months ago when I logged onto Twitter, I was horrified to see the outpouring of stories of sexual abuse by my peers. A week before was when I had realized that I had been sexually assaulted by someone that I called a friend my senior year of high school. And in reading all of these stories on Twitter, I was enraged. It was incredibly difficult to see the details of it, and I was really hurt not only on behalf of my fellow survivors, but also because reading all of this brought up resurfaced memories for me of middle and high school where I realized that I had been sexually harassed and assaulted through my middle and high school years. Then when we tried to reach out and survivors reached out to the school board and addressed the issue, saying what was going to be done, I was enraged by the inaction, enraged by the insistence that every action that could have been taken had been taken, when it clearly had not been. I was enraged on behalf of myself, my own trauma, and the child that you failed to protect in your school system, but mostly for the students that still need to attend your schools. If there's anything that I know, it's that I would not want to be a student in one of your schools right now, knowing that this has happened in the past and that it will continue to happen because of your lack of action. No student can reach their highest potential as you want them to with trauma holding them back. What good is a high curriculum if you cannot focus in school? That's what trauma does. Trauma affects your learning, your memory, it affects your interpersonal relationships, your perception of self. It follows you for the rest of your life. And after I got over my initial anger of that, knowing that that happened to me, I just want to make sure that it doesn't need to happen to any other student. You have a responsibility to these children as elected officials. You are supposed to protect them, and you have failed to do so. So why I'm standing here before you today is to ask, what are you going to do about it now, and what are you waiting for? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Isabel Kendall. And thanks for the pronunciation on that.
Learn the hard way. My name is Isabel Kendall, and I'm from St. Cloud. This is a statement I'll be reading on behalf of a survivor meaning survivor of sexual assault and abuse, and she was an Osceola County School of the Arts student. The decision to speak my story today is 9 years in the making, and I shared in the hopes that my experience and the experiences of others will not be repeated again. I started my sophomore year with a heavy burden on me. I've been sexually assaulted by someone I had been dating. I was 16, he was turning 20. I didn't even realize that what had happened to me was considered sexual assault. He ended things with me because he was hoping to seek employment with your school district, and he accomplished that goal. When I confided in a friend what happened naively, rumors insensitively spread that I had slept with a teacher. I could not defend myself, and the mental toll of such events began to affect my mental health terribly. The rumor reached the offices, and I lived in panic, waiting for when faculty or a staff member would ask me what happened. Or would they just believe the rumors? Ignore them? Ignore them they did, and no one ever checked on me. No one stopped the rumors until they died out on their own. While my experience did not occur on campus or with a fellow student or even technically an employed staff at the time, I realized over the years of denial, eventually acceptance, how much I had wished someone, an adult, had spoken to me. And stories began to come out of the experiences and the encounters others had faced. I knew I could no longer stay silent. No student should feel unsafe in their school. No student should fear not being believed or taken seriously. No abuser or repeated offender should walk without consequences. We must do better. I urge you today to listen truly to the statements presented and create the change necessary to make our schools safe for everyone. Thank you.
Our next student is Jackson Young.
My name is Jackson Young, 426 Davis Drive, Orlando, Florida. I am one of many survivors that came forward about their experiences in June of this year, and I am also a member of the Osceola County Coalition for Change. I, alongside countless others, hadn't even recognized what happened to us as sexual assault. I blamed myself. I thought the experience was my fault. I attempted to justify being taken advantage of in any way I could for years before I realized the reality of the situation. I am tired of feeling guilty. I am tired of blaming myself. I am tired of having to hear about another one of my peers going through the same thing I did. There is a fundamental misunderstanding of what consent is in this district. Our abstinence-only education does not address consent, does not address safe sex, does not address the LGBT community. It does nothing but preach about the evils of premarital sex. This is unacceptable. The lack of proper sex education is directly harming the student body. I would also like to address the reporting system for instances of assault in the county. I myself have reported an assault when I was still in high school, only to find out that the abuser was never even brought in to be spoken to. He got off free. No administration ever spoke to him. I am not alone in this experience. Several survivors have reported their abusers to administration only to have nothing done. No accountability. One abuser in particular has had nearly 40 victims, but his close ties to staff members allowed him to get away with everything. This abuser continued to assault people, harass people, and many of these victims could have been protected if proper action was taken. Too many people share my experience for you all to continue to be silent. It has been months since Twitter exploded with dozens, almost 100 allegations against several students in this county. That is 100 students that should have been kept safe, but were failed by our current systems. That is 100 students that will be forced to carry this trauma with them for the rest of their lives. Once again, as a member of the Osceola Coalition for Change, I urge you all to please meet with us and discuss the list of demands we have shared. We cannot continue to let assault, abuse, harassment, rape be swept under the rug in this county. We cannot continue to put our students in danger. Now, I ask you all, will you choose to remain silent, or will you protect our students? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Juan Duque.
Julia.
Julia.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. I have a written speech, but I want to level with you guys before I begin. I understand that being a school board member is probably one of the hardest jobs that there are in politics. I fully understand that. I also understand that you've probably been yelled at about 4 or 5 different issues tonight. I hope that you're hearing all of these stories and that you're really feeling them. And that you're understanding that this is an issue that's bigger than just OXA, and that this is an issue that's bigger than just the people in this full room, packed room. All right, so I'll be reading in Spanish. It's the same speech as before, so I don't think you will have to do a lot. Thank you. Como bien saben, hace 123 días salieron a la luz una gran cantidad de anécdotas acerca del abuso sexual que habían y han experimentado estudiantes por parte de sus compañeros de clase durante su tiempo en la Escuela de Artes del Condado de Osceola. En aquel entonces, nosotros vimos este gran problema y fuimos testigos de su pasividad al frente del mismo. Y a raíz de eso, nació este grupo. El 17 de agosto de este año, todos y cada uno de ustedes recibió una carta de 12 páginas, en la cual describimos nuestras peticiones preventivas e incluimos información que las sustenta. En la misma comunicación, también solicitamos una reunión con ustedes y les pedimos una respuesta pronta, la cual al día de hoy, 50 días después, no han respondido. Después de recibir la carta, ustedes recibieron innumerables correos electrónicos de nuestros seguidores y solicitando que se reúnan con nosotros y que escuchen nuestras peticiones. No obstante, han decidido no escuchar, no responder y peor aún, no actuar. Por eso estamos hoy aquí, asegurándonos que nos escuchen, que puedan mirarnos a los ojos, sabiendo que cada segundo que pasan con los brazos cruzados, otro estudiante puede estar sufriendo una historia similar a las que ya conocemos. Los estudiantes del condado temen todos los días que su próximo abusador esté acechando a la vuelta de la esquina de sus propios salones de clase. Y que cuando esto suceda, inevitablemente nadie estará allí para ayudarnos. Ningún niño, adolescente ni estudiante debería tener que pensar en esto. Su indiferencia hace creer que ustedes no tienen idea de la magnitud ni de la urgencia del asunto en cuestión. Pretenden que organizar una reunión relámpago en secreto con 7 estudiantes de una sola escuela y un empleado administrativo es suficiente para resolver esta situación, pero no lo es. No puede ser una coincidencia que esta reunión, como la que se llevó a cabo ayer en Oxa, se haya producido tan rápidamente justo antes de nuestra protesta el día de hoy. El problema es mucho más grande que una escuela y solo se solucionará con un cambio sistemático. Precisamente por esta razón acudimos a ustedes y no a la Escuela de Arte del Condado de Osceola directamente. Desde hace 4 meses hemos dedicado toda nuestra energía a esta causa. Hemos creado un espacio permanente para ella en nuestro día a día porque, a diferencia de ustedes, no podemos desviar la mirada de la injusticia ni del dolor de los estudiantes como nosotros. Si creen que simplemente nos vamos a rendir, están equivocados. Este es solo el comienzo. Estaremos aquí luchando por el cambio hasta que decidan actuar. Esta petición de Change, nuestra petición de Change.org, pidiéndoles que se reúnan con nosotros, tiene 512 firmas. 512 personas que buscan no solo justicia, sino también verse representados por las personas que eligieron, disculpen, lo cual podrían ver ustedes en sus próximas elecciones. Entonces, les pedimos una vez más, por favor, reúnanse con nosotros. 5 minutos.
Ok, muchas gracias. Our next speaker is Francis Osceola. Good afternoon.
My name is Francis Osceola. As a current student at the Osceola School for the Arts, I am truly disgusted with the way sexual assault has been handled in our schools. During the span of my education years, I have attended 3 different middle schools and 2 different high schools within Osceola County due to moving purposes. And in all of those schools I've attended, I watched many young girls get treated like their voices didn't matter or their sexual abuse experiences were a joke. These children are only learning their place in this world. Their identity is fragile, their mental and physical health is fragile, and their identity and health development is heavily based on you, a school system that is sworn to protect them. According to the criminal justice system, only 230 out of every 1,000 sexual assault cases actually get reported. This is over 3/4 of sexual assault cases not being brought to light because young boys and girls are afraid of the outcome that'll happen if they'll speak out about their abuse. When we provide no justice or protection for our students, we further push these statistics and allow these abusers to believe that they can keep on abusing without any repercussion. As a survivor, I cannot describe to you, even in the simplest form, how immensely this abuse affects me and other survivors in our future. You have to realize that these are your daughters and sons, these are the children of your community, and these are your kids. And I urge you to follow in the steps of the coalition, Osceola Coalition for Change, in implementing a new system, such as a new reporting system, better faculty and staff training, school-wide assemblies, school-wide education curriculum on sexual education, and additional resources in order to protect our school and students. It's time to stop the careless and apathetic responses to sexual assault against children, and time to start protecting, providing them with a better quality of life for their future. And that only starts in our schools.
I will conclude our public comments in person. We do want to go ahead and present 2 videos that were submitted to us as public comments as well. So we'll just go ahead and queue up the first one.
Osceola County, it is time. No longer can we ignore the calls on social media, and no longer can we stay silent in the hopes that these horrific stories will end, because the truth is, they will not. I've been a student of Osceola County for the past 7 to 8 years. I graduated almost 2 years ago. I know firsthand from being in high school how overwhelming it can be, with the plethora of responsibilities from schoolwork to after-school jobs, to rehearsals, to all the other things that were on our shoulders at that time. It can be very, very arduous. Sexual assault should not have to be one of those things that we have to carry on our shoulders. Sexual assault should not have to be another responsibility a high schooler bears. Because the truth is, when someone is harassed or sexually assaulted at that age, they now have to take that with them into the world, and they have to carry that with them for the rest of their lives. They have to take the journey to heal, and they have to take that for themselves and reconcile with what had happened. Now, We cannot save those who have already had this happen to them. All we can do is wish them well and hope that they can take that journey for themselves and they can heal. However, we cannot stand idly by and allow this to happen to future students. Students who come into high school with dreams and all of this hope for their future. We can't do that to them. It is our job and responsibility to protect those students and to educate and communicate with them about sexual assault and harassment, about what it is and about what it does to the psyche, especially at that age. Like I said, I have been a student of Osceola County for the past 7 to 8 years. I love Osceola County. I grew up here. And it is because I love this district that I feel it my responsibility to hold it accountable. Because Osceola has built itself on the motto of striving for excellence. And we all know that once you strive for excellence, there will always be another level of excellence to reach. The Osceola Coalition for Change does not want to fight with you. They do not want to disagree, and they do not want to gripe. All they want is to find a solution, and they cannot do that without you. So I implore you to please hear us out, to please listen to what we have to say, and to please open your ears and open your minds before making decisions, because this is not a political issue. This is a conversation, and I hope that this can be an ongoing one. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Laura Verde, a concerned student at OCSA. What sparked over the summer wasn't just an exposure event, it was a wake-up call. As a student in Osceola County, I expect to be well respected and cared for in our schools. To know that so many students had to endure such cruel acts of abuse and fear without any guidance or justice is infuriating. I read so many of student stories that were tweeted and I didn't even come close to finishing them all. Some stories are still being brought up now. To read them, it was horrifying. To know that no action was made and that these students didn't feel like that they were cared for or felt like what happened to them didn't matter is also very horrifying to think about. I'm not just saying this is what was shared. Everything that was tweeted, everything that each student felt and still feels is valid. I want everyone to really listen to what's happening. We can't let sexual abuse just pass by. We have seen the damage it has done and we have to hold people accountable. Throughout my school life, I've been taught that people have to be accountable for their own actions. Right now, I haven't seen any accountability being taken. We can't change the past now, but what we can do is change the future of students that will be attending Osceola schools. We have to enforce policies to not only further protect the students that will attend these schools, but to also guide those that students will come to for help when they need it. To those who share their stories, thank you for being brave and speaking out. Thank you for bringing this issue to light. Thank you for giving us this wake-up call that we all needed to see. I hope that you all hear our demands. I don't want another voice to be silent. This is already a scary world that we live in. Let's not make our school one of those scary things. Thank you.
So board, I'm gonna just make a brief comment with a little bit of a preamble, if you don't mind. So the first thing is our public comments is a very important part of public school board meetings. It's a very important part of civil engagement and civil discourse. In all of our in all of our local governments, you have these opportunities for people, or residents, people with interest, or people who just want to advise or share their thoughts with the local governing board organizations, and so that we may listen. And so this is really your time to address us. This is not really our time to go ahead and respond. So normally, at least when I've been chair, I've been very reluctant to go ahead and make a comment in response to any of the meetings, except for when we have to like explore a contract or something like that, that we give brief direction to the school to the school administration so we get to the bottom of an issue. But on this one, I'm going to go ahead and make just a brief response on my part, and then afterwards, Ms. Castillo, who's already in her comments before we began the meeting already alluded a little bit about working with the students and the staff and trying to find a resolution to this. The first thing that I want to address is that I noticed that there's two things that are kind of going on here. And I hope I understand you, and if I don't, you can email me and educate me a little bit more. But there's one thing. First of all, is the general education component that we need to do in our society that can help us make a better future for everyone. Help us understand other people, be more accepting, be more tolerant, be more kind, and be more loving. It's the kind of education that we want everyone to learn as they grow up, about how to be open-minded, how to be reasoned and critical thinkers, so that their contributions to society are positive and progressive, and it takes us to a better place, where we all have opportunities, where we are able to make, as part of our culture, acceptance and dignity and respect for everyone else. And from that comes part of the solution, and I've heard that from several of the young people here, about how to treat other people with respect and how to understand boundaries and how to start thinking about how does this person who I'm interacting with, how do I make that person happy and comport our behaviors in that manner. The other part that I hear is more of a systematic type of concern. There is a narrative that I know that you believe and that you feel is fact, that we don't have policies in place, or that our governing board is not attentive or keen or sensitive to things that are going on, in terms of sexual harassment and abuse in our schools, and that the district has a blind eye. I will tell you that I absolutely will work with you to dissuade that, but to still understand why you feel that way, and if there's things that we can do to help you change that, the way that you feel about that. I will tell you right now that my daughter went through OXA in the same years of these texts and all of these posts that came out. And the first time that I heard about it, I met with the superintendent in private. I mean like the day after, like right away. I met with Dr. Pace in private, in her office. Forget about the clock. Let's talk about this. Let's find out what's going on. And Dr. Pace was already aware about it. And she and we discussed about that. This is serious, and we need to take a professional approach to this. It's got to be a reasoned approach. It cannot be any other way, because that's how you get to real solution. It's not by knee-jerk reactions. It's not by working out of things that we don't have the facts to until we develop them. So, in closing, what I would like to say is that I hear you. I did not choose to ignore you. It's just that governing boards, we have children in our schools. We care about a safe environment as anyone else, as much as you do and your parents. But we also understand the processes that need to happen so that everybody is respected, so that the privacy of our students is respected, so that we have a process that is fair to everyone that's involved. And that cannot just happen on a whim or in any capricious manner. It has to be done measured. It has to be done with facts, and it needs to be done privately, because in the end, you're young and you have a long and bright future ahead of you. And we don't want to compromise that in any way, trying to do something that we want to do if we do it the wrong way. And so, no, there has been no choice, at least from this school board member or anybody that I know, to ignore you. But what you are talking about, we're talking about is very deep, it's very important, it's very complicated. It involves culture, traditions, it involves antiquated views of relationship between men and women. And all of those things have to come to a school district for a solution that requires your help, your collaboration, the community collaboration, the community's buy-in to what we want to do. And so it's not something that can be just say, yes, everything that you said we're going to do. We're going to figure it out. And I have a lot of confidence. I believe that Ms. Castillo is a school board member that I've been working with for 2 years, but I've gotten to know her on a personal level. She is a mother of a teenage daughter who's a junior, currently a junior in our high schools. A very conscientious and intelligent woman that I respect, and I respect her leadership. She asked me to go ahead and give her an opportunity to address you. And like I said, this is a departure from our norms, but I think that you deserve it. You were very patient and you were very professional in how you presented today. And for that reason is why I made my statements and why I will have Terry address you at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, for the moment of privilege. I'm probably going to be pretty brief because prior to public comments, I did state that I did have a meeting along with our attorney with some students at OXA, specifically talking about this issue. And but the reason I wanted to address it again is because while you were speaking, I was taking notes. And I want to make sure that you understand that the conversations that have been happening that may not be on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook Live are still happening. We're not sweeping any of this under the rug. From the moment I received the first email till today, this issue has been front of mind, not only for me, but for Dr. Pace, for all the board members, as well as our attorney. Just because you don't see the action, it does not mean it is not happening. With that being said, the meeting that I had yesterday with students at OXA was scheduled a very long time ago. I didn't know you guys were coming. I'm glad you're here to finally have this conversation. But I think it's important for you to know that the conversation we had wasn't us talking. It was the students instructing us on what they want to see change. And I wasn't going to share this until later, right? But I think it's a moment for the entire community to understand what the conversation was. Our students at OXA asked us for a better reporting system. And I think I heard that from several of you, right? Our students at OXA asked for on-campus resources. They asked for school-wide assemblies addressing sexual assault, consent, the LGBT community, and relationships between students. Our students also asked for better training for staff and faculty. So the conversations that you have brought to us, I want you to understand we're already having. I think it's very important that you know that while you may not see movement the way that you are used to seeing or the way that you would like to see it, these allegations, the conversations, the emails were taken exceptionally serious. And the conversation we had yesterday was not an end conversation, it was a beginning conversation. Everyone at the table left with an action plan. We have work to do, as Dr. Pace and Mr. Koppenbacher know. The students that we met with also have work to do. Because as you stated, they're the ones who are affected and they're the ones who are instructing us with what we need to do. I feel it's really important that you know that I think it is the students who need to lead this conversation, which is why I wanted to meet with them. So we also talked about the sexual education curriculum. So these things were discussed. We are taking your concerns seriously. And I just wanted to make sure that you heard that. From the moment we got the first email to today, this has been a constant conversation with me. And as the chairman said, we cannot take this lightly. So yes, it might be moving a little slower than perhaps you wanted it to, but every single conversation that I've had with Dr. Pace about this has happened. And I just wanted to make sure that we made a public comment about that. Thank you.
Very well. Yes, Mr. Coles.
Members of the board, when I got assigned this to deal with it, most of you know, I like to fix something and make sure it's totally fixed. Terry learned yesterday, so you all know, I've lived with a victim of this. We've listened, I guess they're leaving. The reality is, I'd invite people today. I'm more than happy to meet with them. Our plan is to meet with them, but we wanted to have a work product to talk with them about. That says, does this address, if you had this in place when you were a student, would this in fact have helped you?
Thanks, Frank. Okay, so that concludes our public comments.
Yeah.
And we are now doing, before I done that, I should have just asked if Mr. Whitefire or Mr. Thacker have anything to add.
No, I think both you and Ms. Castillo spoke very clearly and very well. I think you laid out the fact that all board members from the onset have had conversations with the superintendent, with legal counsel, have concern, and will continue to pursue it. I appreciate your leadership and comments. I think you guys both did an exceptional job of outlining that. I'm disappointed that the speakers left in the middle of our attorney's response and communication, but I understand sometimes people are guided to communicate in ways that are ineffective of accomplishing the end goal and the end means, and that comes with growth and development and maturity. And so I'm continuing to look forward to our conversation and work as a board and as a district to ensure we continue to do the right thing for all of our students in the community. Thank you.
And I don't want it to be lost before I move on, because I know that you have daughters and you know, and my daughter graduated. Like I said, she was actually a student at Oxa when all of this allegedly went on. And I can say is like with any large organizations, you're gonna have things happen. But and I'm speaking directly to the administration here and to Dr. Pace, is I do not agree with the assertion that we have a systemic issue that we cover up or do not act upon things that are harmful to our students. Okay, that doesn't mean that you can prevent every 100% of every incident, because that's impossible. But to say that this is a systemic or a problem within our school district, I think is I think it doesn't comport with reality. But Dr. Pace, I will direct you, they feel sincere about that perception, and it is to you and your staff to address that, okay? Because they are still young people, all right? Okay? Yes, sir.
I'm kind of glad the students were here, or the students mostly, I guess, and students, but I really want to thank Ms. Castillo for kind of leading this charge and leading the communications, and I completely trust you to do that. And if there's anything I can do in your stead, if you can't get there or something, I will be very happy to do anything you would ask.
Yes, I want to thank Ms. Castillo as well as I did up front, and also Dr. Pace and Mr. Kruppenbacher, as you both know. As soon as I received these emails, as we all did, we forwarded them right on to legal counsel and Dr. Pace. And so the community understands that. I think the community at large, as you talked about maturity, you understand that when you receive allegations such as these, you have to move forward with legal counsel and forward in maintaining that privacy. So I appreciate all of them coming forward tonight, and I appreciate the work that's being done, the work that has been done, and the work that is going to be done.
Yes.
And typically, sir, I would not respond as well, but I feel like I want to make sure that publicly I assure each of the board members as well as our community. As soon as we received those emails, as I reported to each and every one of you, I worked with Dr. Evans, our Assistant Superintendent for High School Curriculum, who was the former principal at OXA. I worked with Mr. Neal with Dr. Evans, They met with individual students who were currently at OXA to determine if there was any concern from the current students at OXA last spring about a problem, whether it be systemic or a singleton issue. We also repeatedly offered to meet individually with anyone who had a specific complaint that they wanted us to investigate because they didn't feel like it had been investigated. Because quite frankly, I'm professionally obligated to do those things and follow up with law enforcement as necessary. That's all I will say.
Alright, so and that party saved us some time at the end.
Yeah, I don't have any more comments now.
I'm back to managing the meeting mode.
Yes,
So
thank
we
you.
come up to agenda modifications. I'll start from my left. Mr. Thacker.
I'm okay.
No from
No
me.
comments.
I have none, Mr. Chair.
And I believe the Dr. Pace wants to announce.
Yes, sir, we do have a blue sheet item under business and finance, item 11.02. You'll find a copy of it at your seats, board members. Ms. Graber, our chief finance officer, has also reviewed this item with each of you. This is approval of the stop loss coverage. Because of the transition in our insurance program, it took our health services consulting team a little bit more time to solicit proposals for stop loss coverage due to a challenge in getting data from our former coverage provider. And so it is important that this coverage is brought to you tonight, and we hope that you'll consider it under agenda modifications, regular agenda 11.02.
Very well. That will be part of the consent agenda.
I will move for approval of the agenda, including the consent agenda with the additional blue sheet item 11.02.
Second.
Oh, no.
I apologize, sir, but that's a regular agenda
Yeah,
item, not
regular.
consent.
I see it's on the, got it. Very well. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Thacker, and second by Ms. Castillo. Any further discussion? We know we take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
The vote passes 5-0. And that brings us to our regular agenda board. We do have two information items in the 10.01 information on the audit advisory committee, which is in the board packet. And then there is proposed revision to school rules. It's also in the packet. So that brings us to number 11, business and finance. 1101 and 1102, we'll take one at a time. On 1101, this is for the request for qualifications for manager at risk at Gateway.
This is the
Renovation project. Was this the issue that was, yeah?
I will be abstaining from voting on this project, although I may have some comments as we go through this. My son works for one of the applicants' companies that was
This is
bid submitter, I don't know what you call it.
Mr. Krummenbacher and all, and this is the redo, correct?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve, but I'd have some comments.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve by Mr. Booth and a second by Ms. Castillo, and I really would appreciate some clarification, so.
Well, I want to clarify, but I will say this because Mr. Rodriguez was here. I can't tell, I could have did what you read from Mr. Soto. I would have said the same thing to you. The Den John project was done extraordinarily well. We appreciate your work. I also, I know you're working on the Canoe Creek project now. As I've said before, my wife and my son go to school there, so I get to see it all the time, and I live right down the road. So you guys are doing a great job there. I know the principal's very happy, and the teachers are happy. And I want to make sure that Pirtle understands and Mr. Rodriguez understands how thrilled I am with the work that they've done. I will say this in moving forward, and I know we're working through some of the legal issues. I will say this on a kind of an unrelated topic. Mr. Krummenbacher, stop me if I'm going to get in trouble. We kind of had an unwritten rule. Okay. I think we discussed this at great length. We kind of let it slide on one of the projects that I just discussed. But I think we were very clear to our facilities department and our folks picking bid winners that after the situation that we had at one of the high schools, that we were not going to select. And I don't know how you legally do this, but I think we were pretty clear that we were not going to select a builder that was already in the middle of building a project to then be awarded another bid for another project. I think I was pretty clear on that, but apparently not. And so I wanna make sure, going forward, again, I mean, like I said, I won't be here much longer, Mr. Baskin, you can deal with him later. But it has nothing to do with the quality of work that's being done. I would simply be against this because that's what we said we did not want to see happen. And here it is it was going to be presented to us, if not for this issue that we're going through here. So I'm very upset about that, just in general, that we would have this discussion, a very strong discussion, about not wanting to have what happened, and I don't wanna name the company or the schools. I think the school board members know the situation. And we were very clear about what we did not want to see happen again, and here we are. So, and that's all I have to say.
Okay. I don't know who was next.
Members of the board, first on Ricky's comment, to the extent the board would want to do that, I'd want to research it, but I think we'd need to adopt a rule that said this is our policy and not just leave it up to committees. But second, I'm obligated to report to you that subsequent to the recommendation and the committee selection, an issue was brought forward. The following occurred in this RFQ. All of the proposers submitted their responses. In the response, the one who's currently recommended listed that they were in litigation actively. There was then the short list developed, and then there was oral presentation. At the oral presentation, one of the representatives or individuals with the recommended company made the verbal statement they had never been involved in litigation. So we don't know, everybody is incapable of, that impacts grading for the oral presentation, it's part of it. We don't know if it influenced it, if it didn't influence it, etc. But it was, I would start with unintentional, it was intentional, but it definitely tainted the appearance. So I would tell you that if you wanted to consider it an issue, in my opinion, you are within your authority to say, one recommendation would be, we are sending it back for a new panel appointed by the superintendent to do oral presentations again by each of the shortlist people using the same metrics. And that way, that group will not hear anything that's incorrect. I mean, hopefully everybody would be on notice. And then a recommendation would come back from that. Could be the same, might not be the same, nobody knows. But, and that, I spoke today with Dr. Pace, that could be accomplished with everybody moving hard by the 20th meeting. They blue sheet and walk in, final choice, but there is this appearance out there. Now, the second bidder, third bidder, shortlist, they could protest this and say, wait a second, there was a misrepresentation, right? I don't know whether they will or they won't, right? Don't think they will, but they might. But the reality is we have had it raised to us, and I have an obligation to bring that to your attention of what took place.
Mr. Kuchenbacher?
Yes.
What is the purpose of, okay, so what are, you talk a little bit about 11.01. What is the district asking for the board to do here? I'll read it, but there's something more to this. Approval of a request to negotiate as a result of request. It's kind of like, what do you mean, man?
No, that's not my request. Dr. Pace.
Like I'm talking about like a negative after a positive with a negative almost. And as a lawyer, you know what? I appreciate it a lot. It's
money.
It's pretty good, man. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, man. This is the kind of stuff that makes us, gives us business. But so what is it that we're trying to accomplish?
Yes, sir, Chairman Soto, the recommendation is based on the RFQ, or request for qualifications, that was issued as a part of the selection process for the construction manager at risk for the comprehensive renovation at Gateway High School. This particular approval is a result of going through the RFQ process in which you're the committee, as designated, I believe, in board policy. The makeup of that committee is determined, then reviews the written responses, ranks them, invites people in on a short list for oral presentations, and then ranks them to bring forward this particular recommendation or any other RFQ that's come before you multiple times in the past. It's an approval of the request to negotiate because the contract itself would come back to you once the contractual terms were agreed upon with a GMP or a guaranteed maximum price, correct? Because that's the way the CM services contracts work.
So this hasn't happened yet?
Well, it happened.
Well, yes or no?
No, sir.
That's what it's requesting.
It hasn't happened yet, okay. All right,
Okay.
I'm back on track. So let me get Mr. Thacker, then I'll get to you.
As I said, I do have a conflict on this, so I won't be voting, but many times since I've been on this board with you, with all of you, when something comes forward that doesn't smell right, that doesn't feel right, I know it's a little detail, but when you have in your written documentation that you have not had any litigation in your 53 years, and you indeed have litigation going on, and it's an oral presentation, and you're scored on that oral presentation, I don't think that's really an excusable error.
So if I understand this correctly then, how's that relevant to this?
Because that's why they're on here, because they're ranked because of their presentation, and they're.
So I was trying to say, they have already done it. We're telling them to review it.
And so, and Frank, to your explanation, this is kind of like a do-over?
You have two things you
Yes.
can do tonight.
You didn't say that.
I tried to.
We're on.
Yeah.
Two,
You got a positive and a negative and a positive all going.
That's okay, that's fine.
you have three things you could do. You just say, hey, it is what it is, and we're approving the fourth. I was asked to come up with what are there. Two, you could decide that we are going to fix this by having a redo of the oral presentations with a different group. Or the third, you could literally say, we're disqualifying you and we're awarding it to the number two bidder. Okay? But I was obligated, the minute we heard about this after the rankings and everything, the recommendation went to Dr. Pace and said, an issue has surfaced about this. And we've come up with the three different ways you can, in my opinion.
And the
Neither are-
recommendation is
neither-
the redo with the new group.
Neither are perfect. Anybody could.
I was about to announce that, by the way.
Anybody could protest any one of those three.
But we're voting right now, we have a motion to approve and a second on the redo, which is what the
No.
language here is trying to say.
No, there was not a motion to redo.
Motion to approve.
It's approved,
Yeah.
to redo the process, I got it.
No, to accept as is.
Motion to approve item 1101 as presented.
Oh, no, then I'll withdraw my motion. I'm sorry, thank you. Sorry, I thought we talked about this before, Frank, and I thought this was.
Just-
Never mind, I wanna
Sorry.
withdraw my motion.
Okay, so hold on a second.
That's
Let's
my
follow.
mistake, and I apologize.
Okay, all right, so the school district is asking us to approve this. This is your recommendation, right?
This is staff's
This
recommendation
is staff
as a
recommendation.
result of the work of the RFP committee.
Okay, all right. And got it, it's not a redo, it's a set. District is already has their position clear on the record. You're next. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So,
Thank you.
we're gonna have to walk through this if you guys are gonna want to get me to move or agree on some of these moving parts. I'm gonna start by saying this. I have tremendous appreciation and respect for Pirtle and the work that Pirtle has done in our school district. And I have a little bit of concern sitting here today and questioning whether or not they do or don't rank, or should or shouldn't rank in the number one position. And there's a couple of parts of this. One goes to maybe your comment, Mr. Booth, and maybe understanding a little bit more about the comment rationale about a vendor or a construction company not being on multiple projects at one time. And I think I understand maybe some of that goes to the idea of being spread too thin and not being able to focus on the.
Can I recommend that we stay away from that dialogue?
Yeah, that was a different,
Well, that's
that's
fine,
actually different. Yeah.
Involving this issue.
Okay, well, so
That shouldn't.
I'll yield for a moment out of deference to you, Frank, but
That's a
I'll
school
say
board member
this.
preference, which is me.
Okay, that's fine, and I can yield on that, but my point is if these are the type of things that are gonna go and be weighed into our decision-making process to whatever it is, I'm being very candid and clear with my peers. I'm not comfortable with where we are right now, and I lean in favor of supporting the recommendation of staff, and I need to understand better why I wouldn't, because I'm not convinced yet that I shouldn't. I don't know if this is the proper venue, Frank, for us to walk through some of the questions that I would have, or if it's better to postpone action on this until our next meeting so that we can address it and you and I can sit down and have a one-on-one. But board, I'll be really clear, I don't feel the same as I think some of you do on this, and I'm willing to get there. I'm willing to get there if you can help talk me through that, and I can determine in good conscience it's the right decision. But I don't have the details at this moment to go against what's before me, and I'm not comfortable doing it. So
I'm not giving you a recommendation. I'm telling you, here are the different options you have.
Right, so here's the thing. So we got to this point, Mr. Weissier, because I was in the same situation as you. So what I understand right now, hearing under comments from Mr. Booth, there was an issue about a certain policy that we have not yet adopted, but that was.
Keep that out of it.
That
was just me ranting. It has nothing to do with actually what's going on here.
Okay, so
or
that
what
would-
he's recommending, or as in one of the options.
All right, I'll scratch that from my brain.
all that
The other
said here,
point
Mr.
was,
Chairman.
Mr. Weissier, was an issue with whether or not the process was really, whether it was flawed or tainted in some way because of a representation about litigation that can weigh in on the selection committee members. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, I just wanted to distill it. Okay, so those are the things that are weighing here on this particular issue. So you have the Dr. Pace, who is recommending approval for this after all the work that her staff done. They did all of that stuff. They're good with it. They understand these points and they want us to approve it. Okay, so that's where we're at.
I get it. I know exactly
Now,
where
you
we are. I
want, now, if
understand
there's
it.
more that you can learn outside of this meeting and you're requesting that we postpone it, I could explore that to see what effect that will have by us doing that, because we tend to be patient when there's time to do things. Is that what you want me to do?
I don't know that I'm asking you to do anything. I'm saying I would be inclined to further discussion on this at a greater level. I'll make my point very clear. Either this evening I get information that gives me inclination to vote against the recommendation, or I oppose any motion that would undermine the recommendation, or I make a motion to postpone action on this until the next meeting. It's that simple for me.
Well, I don't know what more, Mr. Weissier, with respect to you, we've already had a lot of discussion, so you would probably need to direct whatever information that you wish to have from either the staff members that are present. I believe that some of the selection committee are in here, and I don't even know what they can talk about, by the way. We'll have to be guided by Mr. Krupenbacher because there's potential for litigation. But you also have, Frank is here, and you have the other board members, you could ask them to clarify that position, or we could postpone where you can have, and I believe, and Dr. Pace, this postponement, is that a viable option on this in terms of planning and how we're moving ahead with this?
Certainly, we could make it work, sir, whatever the board decides.
With all respect to Mr. Weiser, I will make a motion actually, because I don't.
You've been making all the motions.
I know, because I withdrew my other motion.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with just saying second, I don't necessarily think that's fair to anybody in the process. But I do feel like this needs to be redone separate, and I'll make a statement separate from my next point. But I would make the motion, Board, that we allow Dr. Pace to select an entirely new team made up of nobody that was on the last team, so that nobody is tainted. I think she can do that.
No, can we
Yeah.
tell her how to do her job?
You're giving her guidance.
We're giving her
Yeah,
guidance.
but that's, I don't, I'm sorry, I needed to stop you there because.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Ms. Hood, could you clarify the makeup of the RFQ committee? Is it in policy or is it in our RFQ document?
It is in policy of who is on a committee. Yes, it is.
And that's not individuals by name, but that's individuals by job classification, correct?
They have to be directors or above to be on the committee or somebody that is assigned to that project.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. I'll make a motion that we redo the selection process.
The oral part.
The oral part. And Dr. Pace can figure out however she wants to do it. My suggestion would be that they get new folks that aren't tainted, Mr. Kremenbach. And then, so that would be my motion, which is kind of your second recommendation, correct?
Second option you have.
Second option that you
But we still have to deal with the item that's on and the request
So we
for
have to
approval.
table it
We either have
until-
to, we either have to
No,
We either have to call
deny
it for a vote and deny it, call it for a vote and approve it, or we gotta table. We can't just go ahead and
May I
pretend it
ask
doesn't
a-
exist.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? If we decide tonight to suggest for a new committee, how long would that process be? And will it be done in time for our next school board meeting in 2 weeks?
We certainly could do our best. There is time that's involved in reviewing the documents and scheduling the presentations and working around people's calendars.
Yes.
But we certainly would try to do our best. If not, we can certainly have it by our first meeting in November.
It would be, for the next meeting, it would definitely be a blue sheeted item.
Okay.
That's where I stand, that would be my recommendation.
So let me, Mr. Booth.
So without a second, my motion would die, but that's all right.
So let me do this, on 11.01, do we have a motion either, on this item?
I would make a motion to postpone action on 11.01 until our next regular school board meeting so that I and other board members at the discretion can seek additional insight regarding the assertions that are being made regarding this process.
Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Alright, so on the motion by Mr. Whiteside to postpone and a second by Ms. Castillo, any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, I'll vote. All those in favor of postponing, as Mr. Whiteside has stated on the record, please vote aye. Aye. All those against, vote nay.
Nay.
So we have a vote of 3-1, with one abstention.
Can I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
Just for the record, I want to be very clear. My question and concern are about this process. They're not about Denjon Middle School, which I believe you did do an outstanding job on, and they're not about the job you're doing at Canoe Creek at this point. Really about the process of this.
Actually, I didn't get the last one. So,
I have huge respect for the work of Colonel
So just to be clear, we'll go ahead and bring back this item. Dr. Pace, there shouldn't be any change on it. There could be a competing item. It could be, the choices that Mr. Kupermacher was talking about could be part of it. But this item still, it's just being postponed. It still needs to be considered in our next board meeting. Okay? And Mr. Booth.
And final word on Frank, and I know we briefly discussed it. I would hope that Mr. Bass, when he comes in, and maybe if you wouldn't mind researching the possibility of adding to our policy on facilities, a selection process, not selecting CMs, if we are even allowed to do that, to say if you are currently working on a job that you cannot actually get a second job that will run concurrent.
Can I offer a clarification?
Sure.
Thank you. Facilities does not control the RFQ selection process. That's controlled by the Business and Finance Department, overseen by procurement.
Thank you, Mark.
Facilities does not control the RFQ selection process.
Thank you, Mark. So,
I know.
for whoever controls the process. And I apologize, Mark.
Actually, you all control the process.
Correct.
So
And
I'll research
that's why I'm
policy
asking.
authorities regarding that.
Is there, Mr. Booth, is there anything further?
No, that was it. I'm
Okay,
good.
anything further before I call next item? Okay, we are now addressing item 11.02,
For approval of item 1102.
Second.
which is the blue sheeted item.
Hold on a second, please. Kevin, I'm sorry.
Fine.
Okay.
11.02 is the blue sheeted item, stop loss coverage. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Thacker and a second by Ms. Castillo. Board, I think that all of us probably have been made aware and explained in details, and if anybody wants to make a comment?
Just thank you, Sarah, for your work. Appreciate you.
Well, I don't like blue sheeted items. I'd much rather have coverage.
Hope
Hope is not a strategy to get us through the next 2 weeks.
Very well. So then, without anything further, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
5 votes. So pass 5-0. Brings us to
Chairman, I'll make a
facility.
motion to approve item 12.01 as presented.
Well,
Second.
motion to approve by Mr. Tim Weissayer, 12.01, second by Ms. Castillo. Any discussion? Will we take a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Vote passes 5-0. And we have at number 13.
I'll make a motion to approve item 13.01.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Booth to approve 13.01, second by Mr. Weissayer. Any discussion before we take a vote on this item?
Just a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
Just looking at the list, I really want to thank the members who have served over the years and these members who continue to serve or begin serving for the foundation. Extremely important part of this community, extremely important part of the partnership with the school district, and appreciate all the efforts and time that this board will put into this coming year.
Yeah.
Years, in some cases.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Thacker. Other comments then? Take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. That brings us to attorney's report and legal issues.
Only issue is on your next agenda, we'll be sending it out to you ahead of time. We will have agenda on C. You're dialoguing and reviewing the proposed draft to send to the county regarding the EPG.
Thank you, Mr. Crum.
That should be fun.
That's next time.
That's next time. Same channel, same.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
The we're now to superintendent's update. Dr. Pace.
Yes, sir, just a few items, bringing
Yeah,
everybody up to speed.
Sorry.
Had to give
Tim's.
Mr. Booth the teacher look there for a minute.
That's Tim's fault. I'm blaming it on Tim.
Just like it was at school, blame it on the kids at
Okay.
school.
Back to school update. We are currently in week 7 of the current grading period, so we're getting close to the end of the term. As of the end of week 6, we had 53% of our students enrolled in digital instruction with an 89% daily attendance rate, and 47% enrolled in face-to-face instruction with a 92% attendance rate. I did give all of you, or sent all of you electronically by district, by school, that breakdown. It is, again, very interesting because it's very different from school to school. But I will tell you that Dr. Evans, Dr. Respis, Mr. Allen, and the rest of the team are working very closely with our principals to make sure that we're reaching out to those students who showed up on our DNF reports in the last little bit, who aren't fully engaging in the digital instruction in particular, to make sure that they're making good choices. But I do encourage all parents across the district, take advantage of that parent portal, contact your teacher, whether it's face-to-face or digital for your child, and let's make sure that we've got all of our students on track, because that's super, super important as the end of the grading period comes along. We also have started a back-to-school campaign for kindergarten students in particular. I've mentioned to you my grave concerns about the fact that kindergarten enrollment is down, PPK enrollment is down, and that foundational start for students is so important for impacting outcomes all the way to graduation and even into GOT College. I'll be bringing you some additional GOT College and Valencia information in a couple of board meetings. I had some great discussions with them yesterday about their strategic planning and what our data has done since 2010 when the GOT College initiative started, and we're continuing to make progress, but we believe we can be in the top 5 in the state along with Orange County Public Schools if we really put our minds to it over the next 10 years. Also wanted to remind everybody, we are moving forward with offering the PSAT and SAT during the school day. We'll have one day set aside for 9th graders to take the PSAT and our 12th graders who are in need of a concordance score for graduation, more this year than last because they missed that retake opportunity in the spring during the school day. For the days that we're doing this school day testing, we're going to encourage our face-to-face students to transition to digital for that day only. If they don't have devices, we'll send them paper packets. But in order to accommodate our digital learners coming in for testing and social distancing, we're going to encourage our face-to-face learners in our comprehensive high schools to take advantage of the digital option on those particular days. The following week, we'll be offering the PSAT to both our sophomores and our juniors. Remember that this year is a part of the state budget. Instead of us having to pay for a school day SAT in March for our juniors, the state is going to pay for that. We are doing it this fall for our seniors because we want to help push those over the edge to making sure they've met their graduation requirements. Our COVID pool testing. We are now into week 4 of that COVID pool testing. We're set to have been to every school by October the 19th. So far, we have tested 2,129 students and staff members. That is over 741 staff members who have been able to take advantage of our COVID testing. For the sake of our community and our public, the licensed practical nurses that we have under contract for testing are paid only by the hour. So that's not really the issue that was raised earlier. In all of that time, we've only had 3 incidents of a positive case. 2 the first week that were staff, and again 1 last week that was staff. I am curious and would welcome some board discussion, if not tonight, maybe something for you to think about since we've had a long meeting and bring back to our next meeting. Is this something we want to continue? It is an investment of resources. CARES Act dollars were something that you asked us to put toward this. It is an investment of time for the LPNs, but more importantly for staff in organizing it. And we're clearly not seeing the spread in the community that we were concerned about seeing. We can keep doing it. That's entirely up to the board in terms of where we go from here. But, having now, our positivity rate's 0.14%. So we're not uncovering this lurking, hidden COVID case across our schools.
So, Dr. Pace, so on a related note, say one of our staff members is concerned, and they want to get tested. What should the experience be like?
In this particular case,
So it's me. I'm like, okay, I should be able to call, I'll know where to go, and I'll be tested, and I'll know within 36 hours.
in the particular case that was referenced here, the individual was asked, the entire staff was asked to sign up ahead of time the day before to say, we want to come for testing. And the principal and the AP were working with staff to provide coverage so that they could go down for testing while the LPNs were there. In ordinary cases, they can go to their school, they can sign up ahead of time with their principal. If there's a concern, somebody's feeling symptomatic, they can call us. We can send them to the closest school that's testing that particular day. Or our Department of Health continues to offer priority testing and results for our staff members and our students. In addition, we anticipate any day now receiving the rapid tests that the federal government has sent down to the state, that the state is directing towards schools and long-term care facilities. Unfortunately, we haven't got a lot of information about that yet. We're still waiting, working with the Department of Health and the Emergency Management System. We are not an approved, I believe it's a CLIA site. So our LPNs cannot administer these rapid tests. I also, in talking with the Department of Health today, learned that the rapid test is most effective with a symptomatic person between days 1 and 5 of their COVID experience. Other than that, it has a pretty high incident of false negatives because it is an antigen test. So, but we can do that, and our allied Ingenuity has been incredibly reliable about getting results back to us between 24 and 36 hours.
So if there's any staff that's complaining that they don't know where to go or they couldn't get a test, how do we respond to that?
We just need to have them communicate with their principal, with me, with Mr. Phelps, and we'll be happy to help them make arrangements, as I indicated in my email correspondence.
Thank you, Dr. Pace.
One other thing, sir, just to kind of say.
We talk about the pool testing still?
Yes, please. I thought you were gonna just go on to something else.
No, I wanted to, I think it's great that we're .00, whatever the number was on testing. Just speaking for myself, I'm not really ready to quit that because I think we are really making progress, but I don't want to have an outbreak and then find out if we'd have just done the test, we'd have caught 200 of them and found it right off the bat. I think until to get through this semester, I don't know, I just would rather, to me, it's a sign of diligence to our staff, I think, and to our students. I think we should, just my opinion, I think we should continue with it.
I agree.
I think 0 positives is a great thing.
We agree.
Tomorrow that could change.
Right. I see a lot of head nods, so we'll continue with our current protocol. And then finally, I also wanted just to remind the board that we are continuing to post our COVID data weekly on the website so that we can have full transparency to our public. So far, we've had 26 positive staff members since we started and 51 students. I will say that we continue to see more impact from community contact and contact within the home than spread within our schools. And so I would just remind our public, please do not send your child to school if you know the child has had a fever, a cough, those traditional COVID symptoms, or if you know for a fact that your child or someone in your home has been exposed to COVID-19 directly. And the same is true for our staff. We are continuing to work with the 10 days of federal leave to cover staff quarantines. If staff members feel well enough to continue teaching in the digital environment, they don't take any leave, and we've got it down to a science now, I think, a real system to transition kids who need to quarantine to digital learning. But that's the true way for us to contain this, not only in our schools, but in our community, for people to understand that 14-day quarantine really makes all the difference in the world if you've had positive exposure. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pace. Okay, so that brings us now to the unfinished business. There's 2 items. Tim, if you would allow me to start with 16.02, and then we move on to yours.
I'm actually fine. I've already addressed it.
Oh, we're not addressing 16.00? We're not
We already talked about it.
Okay, then the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just asked if our board members had any initiatives that they wanted me to bring to the Florida School Board Association. Those are going to be due in the next couple days. Want to make sure that I'm representing our board. So I don't know if you guys have given it any thought. If not, I will still be open for suggestions for the next few days. I am actually attending a training tomorrow and a meeting for the board of directors on Friday. So yeah, I'm really making sure that I'm doing my due diligence and not just bringing issues here on the dais, but also working with our larger community of school board members.
Awesome, was well represented, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Ms. Castillo.
Actually, I have a comment for
Yes, sir.
Castillo. As I mentioned, thank you for the last board meeting you brought this up, and I thanked you for that, and I thank you again tonight. I think 2 items in particular that I would raise. One would be there's going to be significant legislation considered in the 2021 legislative session dealing with liability related to COVID-19 in a cross-section of institutions and industries. And I think it would be important that the Florida School Board Association take an official legislative priority position on reviewing indemnification and liability components associated with school districts operating within the conformity of recommendations by the Department of Education and other institutions within our state. I think that's a smart initiative for us. And then the last thing I would share, and I think Mr. Thacker would affirm, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, because you have served and chaired in that capacity as well, is, and I shared this in my response to the Florida School Board Association related to a SWOT analysis and planning that needs to happen, is that the organization needs to be very intentional about not getting into issues, concerns, or priorities that either one, do not directly align with our key initiatives as school districts or get us outside of our lane, or in other words, mission creep. And number two, that they take a very measured and intentional approach of only addressing issues that we know are rational, reasonable, and recognizable given the current makeup, landscape, and structure within the legislature. You, as a representative, will find that sometimes our peers across the state do not necessarily see eye to eye on what I'm sharing and maybe what you feel, and I think maybe what Mr. Thacker feels as someone who served in that seat before. But it's really important. We as a local school board depend on the Florida School Board Association to help advance policy at a state level that will help support the work that we're doing at a local level. And that organization moving in a direction beyond that which is actually going to be relevant and effective is really a waste of time and energy on everybody's part. And I think you will be a very effective voice at that level to help keep that grounded. And I would submit, carry on some of the work and arguments that have been raised over the last number of years. Trying to think if there's anything else that I would offer to you from my seat here that would help you in your work there, specifically related to legislation. I think that would be it for now, Ms. Castillo. I'm sure there are other issues. I'll say this too. Have you gone through that process previously?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's not true. I have, because I sat in meetings last year as well.
So again, I truly believe you'll be incredibly effective there. I really do. And you'll find, I think, at times that process frustrating. And you'll have to be assertive and bold and articulate to keep the train on the track that it should be on. So that's the best I can offer you tonight, but those are a couple recommendations. I want to honor your request and be sure that I brought something for you tonight.
I appreciate it.
I will echo Mr. Weishire's thoughts and thank you. Far more articulate than I would have been saying.
Thank you.
Mr. Booth, you were quiet through all this.
No, Ms. Castillo, I think I appreciate her service there. Mr. Weishire summed it up well. If the State School Board Association wants to be effective, it does. I'll have to operate in a manner to make it as such. Let's put it as that. If you get into some of the things that are politically charged and motivated, it definitely have a negative impact on the organization as a whole. So I would remember that and echo those concerns.
Just remember, banning books. That was a double negative.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Okay, so.
Oh, God.
Can we end this?
We adjourn this?
Double negatives is a positive.
Before you do, I actually have an update to provide that is indirectly related to FSBA, which is why I bring it up now.
Yes.
You guys have heard me share my concerns with the National School Boards Association and some of the frustrations that I've experienced in arguing national policy it ties directly into what I just shared with you. As of last week, because we're at the beginning of the week, as of last week, the Tennessee School Board Association made a decision to not renew their membership with the National School Board Association due to the fact that the National School Board Association has continued to ignore the concerns raised by numerous states. By way of structure, as you guys know, the Florida School Board Association serves and represents the collective school boards in the state of Florida, so 67 school boards. The National School Board Association represents the states. And so when I or us participate in that process, we're speaking on behalf of the entire state of Florida. I participated as a member of the delegation in the last and multiple delegate assemblies and raised a number of concerns with the National School Board Association, as did Tennessee, Illinois. I can go on with some other states. The reason I share this with you is I've made some comments at the Florida School Board Association about concerns related to NSBA not understanding and recognizing that they serve a diverse country with varying viewpoints, and that if we go in any one direction too hard, you run the risk of alienating the whole and splitting up what otherwise could and should be a unified voice for education in America. And unfortunately, in my opinion, and I believe in truth, they've continued to ignore that. And so I think it's the first of multiple scenarios where you will see states expressing their grievance and concern with the National School Board Association. I'll refrain from sharing any other comment on it because I still serve in an official capacity on behalf of the Florida School Board Association. But I bring that to your attention because, as I guess the three of us won't be, but for the two of you, I think that's going to be incredibly important for you to know where your voice and leadership is going to be needed to continue to shape the conversation in the state of Florida that impacts national policy. And I'll leave it at that and just call it an update for you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, wait, there's one last thing here.
How am I feeling?
No, we got.
We gotta hear from our.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
By the way, so you're
I withdraw my motion.
Because we have spoken tonight.
So every high school that's gotten through algebra knows that negative times negative is positive. So the double negatives are positive.
That's not the way it works grammatically though.
Just want to point out to Mr. Booth here. You know, our
High school algebra.
resident math expert, Mr. Weeder, is no longer with us.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But boy, you probably have a lot to recap here. Share with us your thoughts.
Trying to respect the fact that this has been a long meeting and Booth wanting to.
You know what? Put that
That's
aside.
the best thing you can say tonight, young man.
No. Put
I'm
that
gonna
aside.
keep it brief,
Put it aside.
but I
You don't
do
have
want to
be
touch
brief.
on some
This is your
things.
time, and we're all interested in what you have to say.
That's true.
Thank you. I wasn't able to write down his name, but the man that came up, I believe, second, once we were doing those 3-minute calls, yes.
Yeah, share.
He was talking about a safe learning environment and how school isn't one at the moment. But then at the same time, previously, right before that, we were also talking about like domestic violence. And I think that like people who are in a household that is full and are forced to be in their bedroom while doing school isn't the best environment either, especially when they can be subject to that domestic violence. And for some people, some even that I can recall and I can call a friend, have school as their getaway. And it's kind of like their safe place. So I don't agree with saying that it's not a safe learning environment. Yes, it's not the most like safe one because of the circumstances that we're in, but we're doing the best that we can, and we're using caution, not fear, as I addressed last time. And I wanted to touch up on how also I'm really bad at writing down names, but when we were doing the videos for the 3-minute talks as well, the first lady to go ahead and talk said that she wanted the talk on, sexual harassment to be not an argument but a conversation and an ongoing one. And I was just a little disappointed at the fact that once they spoke their part and you guys were speaking yours, they decided that that was enough for them and they dismissed themselves. But I heard what they said, and I know you guys did too, especially Terry Castillo. I know that you're working very hard, and you literally just yesterday you said that you were talking to students from Osceola and you were working on that. So doing that behind the curtain and the fact that they didn't even know about it shows that you're not necessarily doing it for like what's the word? Well, you're doing it because you have reason and you know that it matters to you. It's not for their recognition. So I applaud you for that and I really do appreciate that.
You are extremely astute.
I'm gonna tell you, how much did you, how much do we owe this young man to come back every meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I have a legal recommendation that you make him the permanent student
He's
representative.
gonna make an excellent school board member one day.
Is it too late to vote Robert out and vote him in?
Sorry, no. His chair.
From the beginning, you said that I would go ahead and rep the P, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the fact that Points in High School is one of the 8 high schools in the entire state that is a national demographic AVID school, and we have been asked by the AVID company themselves to create a video displaying it throughout the entire school and all those kinds of adding on to that, I'm just really proud of how things are going. Just like I said last time, I've touched up on everything that I wanted to keep it brief. That's my part. Thank you guys.
Beyond his years.
Thank you.
Hey, rock star.
Rock star.
Thank you.
Drop the mic. So love this kid.
I know.
One more thing. My mom's gonna kill me if I don't get a picture.
Wait, what?
My mom is going to kill me if I don't get a picture with you guys. So if at the end, if there's any way I could get a picture with y'all. When I
Okay,
told
you
her
have
last
one more
time.
meeting or is this it?
One more.
I have one last one.
Okay.
October 20th.
Very
Yeah.
well. Okay, so
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
approved. Go vote.
Picture that.
Picture, he does want
Oh,
You wanna do it today?